This video is for exercise 3-36-3. For starters, since this is a symmetrical part, I'm only going to be drawing half, and I'm going to start from the front. Now, it's with this exercise that we start to become very methodical about the way that we actually have to create these exercises so that they'll work the way that they're supposed to work. I do want to turn on the grid, and keeping in mind that it is a 30 by 30 grid, I know that I want this to only be about a fifth the length of the grid. And since I'm only drawing half, I'm going to go ahead and start the right side on the origin and work to my left. And I'm going to be drawing the upper half. I also want to turn on these two buttons to show me any closed loops and any open points that I may have as I go throughout here. So now first I'm just going to draw a line that's going to go up just a little bit, up at an angle, another angle, and then over. And now I'm going to zoom in so that I can begin to draw the rest of this. And what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to draw a line down and then just in. Then I'm going to take and go back to the beginning and draw a line coming out this way, up, and then over. Now the reason for all the different lines and the two open points is because I need to leave room in here to draw that circle, which I'll get to in a few minutes as soon as I actually begin dimensioning this. Now, I drew this purposefully so that I wasn't exactly sure how big it was. That way, as we go through here, you can see some of the pitfalls and the way the dimensions are going to work out. For example, right now, if you take the 4.45 and the 4.18, you're going to get well over 8.5 for the overall length when it's only supposed to be 6.3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dimension the overall length and put in my 6.3. Now, what you see happening here is my points are going off. So what I want to do is I want to drag those points so that they kind of look similar to what they're supposed to look again. And this is a process that I may have to repeat throughout this entire exercise to make everything look accurate. So again, I'm going to go ahead and go back to dimension, and there's going to be some math involved with the dimensioning here, but I do want to put in this 0.6, which is the height of this, and notice that it's throwing some more stuff off. Now I'm going to put in the overall height of 2.25 for the half of this object. Now, if you look, this is way off, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep dimensioning. And as I continue dimensioning, things are going to start to look a little bit better. So we'll go from here to here. This is going to be 0.8. See, now that's brought back in line. This segment between here and here is 0.94. Okay, so now that's brought back in line. To the end of this line right here, it's going to be 3.3 minus the 0.4, so it's only going to be 2.9 from here to here. And then I still have this section in here to worry about, but the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a dimension in here of 15 degrees. And now I'm going to go back and I'm going to make my modification to this. Now, you've got to be very careful when you make this modification because that 15 is going to change and some other dimensions may change as well. So as you're moving this around, take note of what dimensions may or may not be changing. And at the moment it looks like only that 15 degree dimension is changing, which is good because now I can just come back in here and make that 15. And then I can go back to my dimension command and make this 135. Okay, so now I have my 0.94, I have my 135, I need the length of this line right here, which is going to be 3.5 plus 0.75, which is 4.25. So we'll put in the 4.25 here, not 43, but 4.25. Okay, so now you can see things are starting to add up a little bit more and things are starting to work out. But now I want to put in the distance between here and here, which is going to be 1.6. Now, I still have a couple of dimensions that need to be addressed, but I'm not going to concern myself with those right now. What I want to focus on is I want to focus on these open endpoints. Now, by moving this back, I am changing the dimensions, so I do want to make sure that I come back in here and make sure that this is 0.6. At this point, I've got this fillet that comes up here and then this circular shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line. And that line I'm just going to draw up, and I'm going to draw it well over. That way I can go back and trim what I don't need. And I'm going to change this to 0.4. Now, as far as the open ends, now I'm at the tricky part of this where I actually have that circle to put in here. And to make that circle a whole lot easier on myself, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a circle out here, making sure that it has no active constraints on anything. And at this point, I'm going to change its diameter to 4, because this has a radius of 2. Now I do want to come over here to my constraints and set a tangent constraint between here and the top of this. The next thing that I need to do is I need to put in the dimension from the center point to the right. And in the book, that is going to be 3.3 from the right hand side. So I'll go to my dimension, grab this and this, and put in my 3.3. Now I've got everything in here that I need to have in here. Now I need to go through and trim out a lot of lines. And my goal in the trimming out of these lines is to get so that I have a closed loop. So I'm going to go to Modify, and I'm going to begin selecting the parts of the lines that I do not need for this particular exercise. So I'll click on Modify. I want to, for some reason, Delete Segment is the one I want, not Modify. So I'll click on this, zoom in real close here and click on this inner part of the circle, get rid of these parts of the circle, and this. And that looks to be about everything. Now when I look, I can see that I have a closed loop. That closed loop is what I'm trying to get towards for this exercise. So now I can go ahead and finish my sketch, and I'm going to orbit this thing slightly and extrude its thickness, which is 0.25. So we'll come up here and change this to 0.25, and I will finish that. Now I've got a solid to work with. What I'm going to do right away is I'm going to mirror this solid. And my reference, I need to pick a plane, and I'm going to pick this plane right here and hit the checkbox. And what that's going to do is mirror that nice and neat for me. Now, there's still some other things that I need to do on here. I have 0.75 fillets that run on this edge, so I'm going to come over here to my round, and I'm going to put in the 0.75, and I will select my edges in here, being this one, and holding down Control this one as well. Those two fillets are the 0.75 fillets on the outer portion of the plate that I need. So I can go ahead and hit the checkbox, and those two fillets are placed. I'm going to go back to the round, and this time I'm going to change the radius to 0.4. And now I'm going to select the interior surfaces here. I'll grab the first one, and then I will orbit around slightly, hit Control, and grab the second one, and that's going to give me my other fillet. So now I've got both fillets in. The only thing that I have left to do on this particular part is to locate the holes. Now, rather than actually locating the holes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an axis on this surface, which is going to give me a center point. Now when I go to the hole command, since that axis is already active, I want to make sure that it's not. That way I can place everything the way I want. Excuse me, I'm going to left click this surface, hold Control, and click the axis. Change this to 0.75, and then it's going to go through all. That is going to give me the first hole. And rather than do anything different at this point, since the hole is already selected, I'm going to grab the pattern tool. I'm I'm going to change fill to direction. And the direction, I'm going to pick this line right here, and you can see that it's backwards, so I'll flip that to go the other way and change the dimension right here to 3.5. And then I need to click here to add another direction, and I'll select this one right here. And that appears to be going in the correct direction, and that's going to be 3. Once I see all 4 of the hole locations laid out, I can hit the checkbox and it's going to place all 4 holes. So this particular exercise had to start with this simple extrusion. And the sketch for this is more complex than many of the sketches that you've done so far. But the thing that I want you to keep in mind is, as of this point, we're going to be working very methodically in how we actually create all of the drawings that we have to create to get this particular object done.